Hey guys, Pro1701 here, and today we are going to be reviewing The Dominators with the Second Doctor. Now, I had been doing individual episode reviews on these, but after the third review, for episode 3, I should say, I kind of lost interest in trying to do them because the story just continued to drag and drag. I don't hate this story. But I think one of the reasons that I don't really like the story either, but one of the reasons I think I give it a little more leeway is because it is one of the few completely surviving Troughton stories, and I do like having those, and I like being able to watch a complete Troughton story without having to use animation for any of it. But the story itself is not very good. It really didn't need to be 5 parts, which is terrifying since it was originally 6 parts. It really needed to be 4 parts, I think. You could tell there was a lot going on behind the scenes with the script. I've watched the making of, and there was a lot going on, tampering with the scripts, a lot of stuff that got changed. The casting decisions weren't very good in some places. Now, that's not fair. Maybe some of the performances, especially from the 2 Dominators, man, I saw them right at the beginning when they're standing out there talking to each other, and they're not even looking at each other. Yes, we must go do this. Yes, yes, we will do this now. And they're not even looking at each other when they're talking. And it's like they're just reading lines off a page without knowing what any of them mean. I am supposed to say this. This is what this is here, right? What do you know what that means? No, I do not. They really come across as the evil, mustache twirling, evil type. Very two-dimensional. They get a little better over the course of the story, but it's still not great. I remember at the beginning of episode 2, they're like, "We are Dominators, stand against that wall." And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad, isn't it? Because there's some of those Doctor Who stories I watch that they have this kind of bad reputation, like say the Crotons or Colony in Space, where they either have a bad reputation or a kind of dull reputation. And I end up really enjoying them, and I'm like, all these other people don't know what they're talking about. I shall have to explain to them how great these stories are. So, you know, I figured with the Dominators, I'll probably end up liking it, and I'll have to tell people how wrong they are. They are right. I've learned very quickly watching this one. Nope, the fandom has this one completely in the right. It is, not great. Now, Troughton is great in this. I absolutely love Troughton in this. This really is a story for maybe some of my modern viewers watching. Think about how Peter Capaldi is really good at elevating some of his bad episodes, of which there are many in his era. But even Capaldi's bad episodes, Capaldi is pretty much always great in them. So even though the episode's bad, Capaldi's still nailing it. Troughton is a lot like that too. Even in Troughton's bad episodes, he is just nailing it. He is the Doctor. I absolutely love watching him work. All the stuff he's doing with his face and his hands, like when he's worried about the radiation and he's talking to Zoe, and he's like, I think I checked the counter, ooh. And the animations never quite get his hands right when he's doing all of this, which is a little irksome. I love the very end scene with him when everything's over with and he's just got that little handkerchief and he's like, oh, it's all over now. And then Jamie's like, don't we need to go? Oh, no, it's all right, it's all right. It's only a danger to the island. Well, yes, Doctor, but we're still on the island. And Troughton's like, oh, my word. And they run into that's a very Doctor thing to do, to be thinking, we're all safe. It's only, for people on the island. We're still on the island. Oh, dear. Yeah, that's a very Doctor thing to do, to have that kind of brain lapse. So it's perfectly fitting with the Doctor's character. I absolutely loved that ending, I will admit. It's a little tropey, sneaking the Dominator's bomb back on board the Dominator's ship. It's kind of the same thing we would see later in Death to the Daleks. It might not have been quite as tropey at the time, but these days I kind of saw it coming from miles away. So when it happened, I was kind of like, all right. Everything's tied up in a neat little bow. I love how the story actually shows just kind of the downside of pacifism. And I'm not saying pacifism is a bad thing. I'm just saying that there can be a downside to it, that if you become so much of a pacifist that when someone who isn't a pacifist shows up and kicks your door down, well, what are you going to do? So, you know, are kind of like episodes of like Family Guy when suddenly, you know, they burn all of their guns. And when the threat shows up, they don't have the guns anymore to defend themselves. So that's actually kind of a neat little lesson there, to be honest. So I like when the Dominators show up and the council of the people on the planet are just debating and debating and debating and talking and debating. And, well, let's bring in the specialist, the one guy who's supposed to kind of know stuff. And then they debate some more because he's like, well, we can either fight, flee, or submit. Well, we can't do any of those things. Then we must do nothing for now. Do nothing. It's like the most inept governing body I've ever seen. And that's not fair. That's not fair. I live in the States, after all. This is like the second most incompetent governing body I've ever seen. Yeah, that's a little more appropriate. And it's funny to watch them work. I love when the Dominator shows up, and it's obvious this Dominator means business, and they're still trying to talk to him about using proper decorum. And he's like, we're Dominators. We do not need assistance. And he has to actually kill one of them just to get the point across that they need to stop talking and listen to him. It's kind of funny, actually. But yeah, the Dominators isn't great. Like, that's the reason why I didn't do it, just a review for episode 4 and 5. I was literally just... Episode 4, there wasn't much I wanted to talk about. And I was kind of getting bored with the story. It was going on too long. I didn't find it interesting. It's probably my least favorite Troughton that I've seen. Granted, I haven't seen Underwater Menace yet. I'm really curious, actually, which one's worse? Underwater Menace or the Dominators? Because I've heard Underwater Menace, while not being great, but it's over the top. It can still be silly fun. You know, maybe kind of like Horns of Nimon kind of fun. Whereas the Dominators, other than the performances of Zoe, Jamie, and the Doctor, I don't really care for it. They're great in it. I like all three of them in it, but it's not one I'm going to go back and rewatch. It's not one I'll never watch again, but it's not one I'm just chomping at the bit to go watch. It took me a while to get through it. I kept taking breaks. Like, I'd watch an episode, and then I'd do the review for it, and then I'd go do something else for a bit, usually. Even between episodes 4 and 5, I'm like, I gotta go do something else. I just couldn't sit down and episode, like I can for even longer stories. Like, you know, Inferno. I can watch all 7 episodes of Inferno back to back. Colony in Space, I can sit through all 6 episodes. This makes Colony in Space look like a wild party by comparison. It's just uninteresting. If it wasn't for the fact I think that so much of Troughton's era is missing, and I hold it in a little bit of reference just because it is a complete Troughton story, I probably wouldn't think a whole lot of it aside from the main cast performance. But it is definitely, I would say, at least up to this point, my least favorite Troughton that I've watched. Enough so where I'm going to need a little bit of a break before I watch Mind Robber. I haven't been able to jump into Mind Robber yet. I've actually been watching An Unearthly Child. That's how hard Dominators was. I couldn't even shoot the video right away. I've already watched about the first 2 episodes of An Unearthly Child, which I've seen before anyway. So that's my thoughts on the Dominators. What do you think of the Dominators? Is it your least favorite Troughton? Lord, could the Space Pirates be worse? It's hard to say, I guess, since the Space Pirate doesn't actually exist. But let me know where the Dominators falls on your Troughton list and what you think of it. And anything else you want to say about it, comment down below and let me know. I always enjoy hearing from you guys. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on a new video. We are trying to grow the channel up to 1,000 subscribers. I would like to reach that as soon as possible. It'd be a nice little feather in my cap. I have recently unlocked community posts, which I'm very grateful for, having crossed the 500 threshold. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed for that. I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and like to contribute to what I do, please check out the link, the description below. There's a link in the description below, and that helps me out, which I appreciate. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.